India is one gigantic blue ocean. Okay, so let's start with why I say that. Okay, we have 600 million Indians on the internet. That number is going to get to 1 billion by 2025, right? So by
Right.
2025, which is only 4 years from now, Ankur, you're going to have a billion connected Indians who are probably going to consume 25 gigabytes per user per month, and we're going to spend 6 hours per day online. Okay, that is one gigantic user base. Okay, that is 3 times the size of the US consumer internet user base, right? So that's number one. I think number two, as you said, look, payments infrastructure is fully established. We think UPI is now, thanks to UPI, we have the most advanced digital payments ecosystem in the world. And thanks to frameworks like Account Aggregator and Open, we are also going to very quickly have, over the next few years, the most advanced digital lending ecosystem in the world, right? So sort of the fintech enablers are sort of all being put in place. As you know, thanks to Amazon, Flipkart, and the many other e-commerce companies that we have now, and the logistics infra players like Delivery, today you can pretty much ship to any pin code in India. We have 630,000 villages. You can ship to any village within a few days, right? And of course, any metro you can ship pretty much in. So all of that stuff is in place, right? So with that in place, so let's take a look at some spaces that we have considered to be very quote unquote, like the done spaces, right? E-commerce. If you had asked everybody 2 years ago, they would have said Amazon, Flipkart, impossible to compete. Nykaa just went public, $15 billion market cap, right? 1 lakh crore market cap, right? And clearly the leading player in beauty commerce, right? You look at a company like a Meesho, which is going after essentially a horizontal play, right? I mean, if you had even asked me a year or two ago and said, can somebody credibly try to build a very large scale horizontal e-commerce platform in India, everybody would have said no. I mean, how do you compete with Amazon and Flipkart? But Meesho is giving it a pretty good shot, right? So that's a very, very crowded, not crowded, but a very established space with some massively entrenched competitors, right? And you're seeing sort of the next generation of innovation, right? Now, I want you to imagine an India with 1 billion connected users, right? I mean, of course, we're going to see many more, specialized, right? Now, they won't, I don't know how many more companies we'll see like Meesho that are going to go after, but, whether it's, social commerce, whether it's vertical commerce, whether it's, private label brands, right? So even in some of the most competitive, well-established, highly entrenched competitors, we're going to see innovation, right? Another one is ride hailing, right? So clearly we have Ola and Uber, but then you have companies like Rapido and many others. And I think in many ways, when mobility comes back, right, we're going to see a new generation of mobility companies. They'll probably be EV first and so on and so forth that will come up. So I think that's on the one end of the spectrum, right? You have sort of these spaces that in many ways, several of us, including myself, if you had asked me 2 years ago, would have said, it's hard to see sort of a new multi-billion-dollar company being built, and then boom, you have a company like Meesho, right, which comes out of nowhere, is now obviously doing very, very well. But on the other hand, on the other end of the spectrum, you have true sort of what I might call blue oceans, right? And Ankur, I think these blue oceans really are in spaces like ag. So Sequoia, we made our very first investment in ag tech in a company called BJAG. They were in our second cohort of Surge, but since then we've made several other investments, DeHeart and Animal and Absolute, which is a company in the Surge cohort that just wrapped up. At the end of the day, right, this is a multi-$100 billion industry. In India, 3 billion, 2.5 billion people depend on agriculture around the world. India is going to be the hub for global innovation in ag tech, right? And the reason I say that is because we need innovation more than any other country. By the way, Israel leads on things like precision ag. I'm not talking about that, okay? How to make very, very small farms more productive through tech. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about innovative new business models in agriculture that are enabled by technology, right? Like if you look at a company like Absolute, I don't know whether you're familiar with them, they use precision farming to improve farm yields by 30%. And then they have sort of an output-driven sort of market linkage-based market business model, right? So that's on the other end of the spectrum. You have spaces like ag, you have spaces like digital health, right? So the first generation of digital health companies were e-pharmacy companies like 1mg Pharmacy, etc., and then companies like Practo, right? But now you're seeing a new generation of digital health companies, which are really digital therapeutics companies, right? So think about a company like Twin that is going after diabetes, or think company like Vera, which was in our most recent cohort of Surge, which is going after PCOS that impacts 100 million women in India, right? So really, I mean, there's a spectrum, right? But the reality is, look, there's opportunity everywhere. Let's take direct to consumer brands, okay? I mean, the fastest unicorn India has ever seen, in 0 to 6 months is Mensa, right? Mensa is basically an aggregator of direct-to-consumer brands, right? So you see MindGlab, that I think the most recent round, they became a unicorn. You'll see several other unicorns in D2C. But the reality is, look, I mean, India doesn't have enough brands, right? And millennials, especially this new generation of Indian consumers, they don't want to buy the brands that I buy, right? Or for that matter, your parents buy, or sort of, and your children certainly aren't going to buy the brands that whenever you do have children, will not buy the brands that you're going to buy, right? So this is going to lead to a large number of if I was to guess, I would say by 2030, which is only 9 years from now, right? We are going to have several $10 billion market cap consumer product companies. Okay, so I'm talking about house of brand companies, right? Now, some of them may get there through sort of the Mensa and Global Bees approach. Others will actually get there through build a brand like a Mama Earth, and then actually evolve into sort of many different brands over a period of time, right? So we have a company called we have a company in our portfolio which they haven't announced this publicly, so I can't say which one. It's a consumer brand company in search. Ankur, fastest 0 to 100 crore company that Indians have ever seen. Okay? Fastest 0 to 100 crores. And you know what the magical thing, Ankur, is? At 100 crores of revenue, they have 30% PAT, profit after tax, positive 30%. Okay, it's insane. They raised $2 million from Search. When they raised their Series A, they had $3 million in the bank. Why? Because they haven't burnt any money, right? I mean, they're 30% PAT. So I think that is all the domestic market. But then actually the real startup story in India is the fact that we are going to actually have global companies built out of India, right? I mean, you guys are obviously a SaaS company, so you guys live in the sort of the SaaS world. But if you look at the SaaS and dev tools sort of ecosystem, right? Today we have about 12 or 13 SaaS dev tools, companies like Postman and Druva and Freshworks and iCertis and Innovation. I mean, that group of companies, right? There are about 12, 13 of them, right? There are unicorns today. But the reality is, look, by 2025, we'll probably have 50 SaaS unicorns. Like 3 years ago, Ankur, we had said India would have 100 unicorns by 2025, right? We're already over 70. So
we're already
if the markets hold, now, by the way, if the markets hold, because the markets will correct, we just talked about that. We could get to this the 100 unicorn number by 2023, right? Maybe it'll happen in 2022. So clearly by 2025, we're going to have many more than 100 unicorns. But I think it's fair to say that we could get to 50 SaaS unicorns, in 4 or 5 years from now. And by the way, I'm fully betting that, WebEngage joins that club, and you're going to be a unicorn with hundreds of millions of dollars of revenue with ARR, right? Because I'm actually much more focused on revenue and sustainable revenue and things like that. So anyway, long answer to your question, but look, India is just getting started, right? Because, one of the things that happens is, look, let me give you an interesting stat, okay? 10 years ago, we had 0 unicorns, Ankur. 0. Today, we have over 70 unicorns. In fact, this year, we've had 35 new unicorns, right? None of us can imagine what 2030 is going to look like. None of us. Nobody can imagine what it's going to look like. What I can tell you is 2030 is going to be bigger than any of us can imagine in our wildest dreams. Okay? And the reason is because there is opportunity everywhere. Everywhere. And I think the key thing, though, is you have to really build products that are distinctive, that meet real user needs, right? So, by the way, that doesn't mean you should go launch another edtech company. Okay. No, so look, today, by the way, that doesn't mean you should just go launch a business in any space, right? So, for instance, in edtech, right? So, India today has, we are as Sequoia, we are very fortunate to be investors in Byju's, Unacademy, and many other super interesting companies, right? Including some very early stage companies that are very, very interesting. But in edtech, if you're building an India edtech company, Ankur, right, you have to be really, really thoughtful about the white space, right? Because there are hundreds of edtech companies, right? So you have to be. So the more developed our ecosystem gets, especially in spaces where there are many companies, entrepreneurs have to be extremely thoughtful about what user are you building for, what's that unique insight. You have a product that is really going to be, create that wow moment for your customers, and then obviously, can you get to PMF, which is all about retention,